try better. Okay. So, today's going to be the driving test. Thanks, Lizumi. My coordinator helping. This is the course we're going to do, and during break time we can walk. So we've got a map of like how we're supposed to do. And you can see here everyone else also doing their turn walking around. Check it out. Voila. So I thought I'd make a quick video about changing your South African license to your Japanese license. Talking to some people who've done it, reading online. First up, it's not as shit as it sounds. But anyway, we'll get to that. So, summary version, you can ask me more questions afterwards, but I'm trying to make this video short and kind of to the point. So, you have an interview you have to do. You have the day of the test, which includes an eye test, a written test, and the practical test. So for the interview day, I had to take 1 hour of Nenku. We did it at 3 o'clock, so I just kind of skipped school and went straight to the center here in Omura afterwards. For the test day, I had to take a day of Nenku. So just prepare yourself in that way. I also went for some lessons. I'll talk about that in a second, but I had to do that separately after school days. And overall, I would say I spent about 15,000. So Ichiman Gosen. So that's including the lessons and all the process paperwork, photos, and so forth. So when you go for the interview, you have to take a bunch of papers with you, and I'll just go through that quick. So I took my foreign license, my South African one, and because I had my previous one, I took that with as well. The whole point of this is to make them feel like they can trust you to drive on a Japanese road without making mess of it. So anything you can bring to show confidence in your ability, experience, and similar, just take it all with. They'll take it and they'll use it, or they don't, but at least they have it. So my current license, my previous license, because it was expiring while I came to Japan, so I actually renewed it when I left South Africa and then went back to fetch it when I went for Christmas break. Different story. A translation of your license, so you have to go to a JAF office to get a translation of your local license. It's South African license. It's just an A4 page. You can also do it via mail, which I did, and that was great. It took about 3 days. I think that was about Sanzen, so 3,000 yen, I think, if I remember correctly, plus maybe I think 500 for their return postage cost. Anyway, it was really quick, and they just take your information and give you back a page with a translated version of it. International license, so most people get one before they come to Japan. It lasts a year. Because my license was expiring end of March already, mine only lasted until the end of March, which is why I've not done this earlier than most other people of my year. I brought my passport because it shows my immigration record, including South Africa time in and out, because you have to prove that you were in South Africa 3 months after your license before coming to Japan. And that could include, like my previous license, that could include, what else did I take? My JET application form, actually, some of the documents there to prove that I was in South Africa during how many years, studies, and afterwards, after I started getting my license and before I came on JET. What else? My residence card and a certificate of residence that you get from your city hall or town hall. I think that's about 500 yen or something. You go there, you fill it in, it's about 30 minutes, I think. And then the photos they will use is 3 centimeters by 2.4, which you can normally take at the center, same as kind of most countries. I did take mine there because the old ones I had didn't fit anymore, or they weren't the right size. Plain background, I paid about 750 yen for that. So throughout this whole process, I took my coordinator with me as well, and she helped in 2 ways. Number one, because I can't speak Japanese to the point where I understand everything they speak about, the paperwork and so forth, although a lot of it is translated into English as well. And number two, it just helps them again confidence. They can explain things to me via her if they need to. And because you're doing a process that's slightly different from the normal getting your license, you'll also you'll kind of see that you don't follow all the same routes, all the same cues. The interview, for instance, is in a separate little room that they talk to, whereas most other people are just doing their stuff. So the actual process itself, the interview day I think was about an hour or so. They ask you to fill out a form, and basically it's as much information as you can give about how you practiced before your license in your home country, how you were tested, and so forth. they ask you very specific things like who was the person that examined you for your pass, who was the person that trained you, where was the first time you trained, and how did you train, what did you cover, and they ask you to write down as much as you can. But they aren't actually looking for specific people's names, although they'll take it. I told them, like, there's no way I'll remember this person's name who examined me 10 years ago. Like, it's just ridiculous. I have no idea. And the interviewer actually explained that they're not looking for the person's name as much as confirmation that it was someone who is an official and is able and authorized to allow you to be passed. So yes, it was a government official, it was a traffic department officer who did, and the person who trained me was affiliated with the rules of the department, because in South Africa, especially around where I was doing my stuff in Stellenbosch, there's a bunch of people who do like private enterprise instructing, like Dennis's driving school, and it's just him and his car, and he takes people around, but he knows the process and he knows the DMV, so to speak. So you'll write that out. They'll take all your paperwork. They'll ask you a few questions probably. They'll come back. You might have to fill in a few more details. It's not grueling. They just want to check that they can again allow you to drive, because you're not lying and you did go through something proper in the previous country. This interview also then exempts you from having to do the other tests that normal people do, like driving on the course and driving off it. Because in South Africa, you do coursework, which is mostly parking and so forth, and like the corridor parking, the 3-point and so forth, and then you drive into town, right? So in Japan, what you're going to do is you're only going to do coursework, and it's actually just going to be driving. You're not going to park probably. You're just going to drive, turn left, turn right, stop, slow down. I did manual, like change gears, don't suck at it with clutch work. Maybe stop on a hill, and that's really it. And again, the reason you don't have to do that is probably because they can trust your pass that you now have to say in the interview. So you're done with that. Congratulations. They give you most of your paperwork back. You have to pick a day to do your exam. This was a whole NQ day for me, because in the morning you do your eye test and your written test, and then in the afternoon you do your practical test. So I went for 3 lessons at the driving school kind of next to our Department of Motor Vehicles here in Amura. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 2 50-minute lessons, 1 25-minute lesson. It cost me about ichimani cents, so about 12,000 yen to do this. It helped me because driving tests and driving are not the same. The same way making tea and a tea ceremony is not the same thing, even though it's about the same thing. So remember that, and it also help you feel less frustrated, which I'm sure we all felt when we originally did our tests back in South Africa or wherever else we did it. Although I hear America's is like really easy, and also they can just change theirs here. I took this with when I went to do my test and my interview. Well, not my interviews, because at that point I hadn't done it yet. Again, it's just great because they sign off that you've gone those days, and they write notes. So maybe the first one here was about Flippy's clutch work is a little bit tight still, and he wiggles when he drives. He doesn't keep to the left so well. And the second was, geez, he's amazing. It's so perfect. Just let him pass, no problem. Or whatever they wrote. Again, just helps them kind of give you the approval. So the day of the test, you get there. I had to be there about 10. The eye test is very simple. It's like a little circle with a gap, and you just say where the gap is towards. And then there's 2 lights, and it's just a few colors. So orange and green and blue. And green and red. And green in Japanese is blue. So when you get to the light and it's aoi, it's actually not blue. It's the green light, but go is blue because Japan. I don't have a clue what the reason is for that, but anyway. So you do that. You do your written test, which is 10 true false questions, and this is classic. It feels exactly like South Africa. It's very simple, but then at the same time incredibly specific and sometimes ambiguous. So in the case of an elderly person with a walking stick or walking frame using the road, passing in the road, cars should slow down or stop. And the immediate answer is, yeah, sure, like everything is just about safety. Great. And then you go, why the hell is it an elderly person with a walking stick or walking frame and not just any person or just elderly? It's so bizarrely specific. I don't understand. But anyway, you probably passed that. They left me in a separate little room where I've done the interviews, and they told me you don't have a time limit. You can just write as long as you want. Because it's 10 true or false questions, it's really not going to take you that long. But read them twice, because you're going to have a lot of time in this day still. You finish that, you sit around, eventually someone will tell you you passed, and you can they'll talk you through what's going to go happen in the test. So here's the form they give you, give this to the instructor. Here's the course. So this is the map of their course. It's really expansive. It's actually a really nice course. And they've got 3 kind of set out routes. So course 1, course 2, course 3. I did course 3. And they'll talk you through it roughly, so here you're going to go, you're going to change lanes, you're going to turn here. They've got 2 things called the S curve and the crank. The S curve is just a tight S, and the crank is just like that, like a crank. And if you read the blogs and so forth, everyone's freaking out about it. I'm assuming it's because they don't have previous driving experience, but I mean, the car you drive is not a K car, it's a normal like sedan, which is normal. And it fits everywhere, so don't stress about it being too narrow. It's fine, just drive slowly. So they'll talk you through it. They'll tell you have to be back. I had to be back at 1:30, so you have like an hour and a half or 2 hours free. But at 12, from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, which is lunchtime, you can actually go onto the course and walk around because no one's driving really. So this is fantastic. I mean, probably don't need to do it, but it's useful. Plus, it's kind of fun. I'll show a video at the end of this about us walking around, watching all the instructors with like the students, telling them you're going to turn here, you're going to do that. It's kind of good. I mean, you just walk through and kind of visualize, okay, well, I'm going to do this here, I'm going to do this here. Plus, you got time, so you might as well. And because you get to see the place, it doesn't feel so foreign when you have to do the test, which is great. So when test time comes, you've got your 2 forms you have to have. I still had my coordinator with me. And there's one group that gets so everyone's just in this little room that's on the course itself, and on one end, like, one guy's telling a lot of people stuff, on the other end the one guy's telling me, and it turns out none of those people have anything to do with me, or probably you at this point, because you were just going to get someone who's going to come in and do you first and get you out of the way, and they can go back to their normal process. So again, foreign people getting a changeover, normally it's just we finish you so we can go back to our normal way of doing things. So eventually someone came up and said, hi, hello, this is going to be him, fancy, like very formal, short introduction. And oh, Yuri, that's great, here's my paperwork, fantastic, let's do it. He gets into the driver's seat of the car, I get into the passenger seat, and he drives me through the course. So what a win. You get to see what speed he goes, how fast he indicates, how he checks everything, how slow he goes before he turns, and he talks the whole time. This is such a like spoon-fed pass, the guy literally does the course for you, with you in the car, and then as soon as he finishes, you change places, and then it's your turn. So just pay attention, like all the small questions I had about how do I do this, what do I do this, were answered because I just watched the guy do the course. That's fantastic. Something Japan does, which is really cool, is while someone is doing their test, another person who's going to do their test sits in the back seat. So that person gets to kind of get a free view of you driving around the same way, I suppose, hopefully if you pass, that the instructor showed you. So when we swapped, I had someone get in the back, and then you're like, Yoroshiku onegaishimasu, let's have a go. You do your checks and whatnot, and off you go. And if you don't fail, which thankfully I didn't, then you pass and you go back to the office itself, and you sit around for some more paperwork, you sign some stuff, you sign a promise that you won't use your international license anymore. Your like international permit that you got, you'll only use your local license that you now have, which is fine. Their local licenses can also take a pin, and then you can see your like your basic residency information on the card. So a lot of people start using this instead of the residence card, which is pretty cool. I mean, same in South Africa, you can use your driver's license for a lot of stuff compared to your ID. And then we were done, and that was really it. So I spent about a month and a half. A few things that are different from Japan to South Africa, and most of them were good, as you can tell. I generally feel like this was quite an easy experience and not as difficult as a license in South Africa, although a lot of the same principles apply. So here, because you're changing over, you only do coursework. You don't actually go into town, which is easier. They show you to you, which is really cool. The driving style is keep left all the time, so you're always 30 centimeters away from the left white line, and then if you turn left, you just stay there. If you turn right, you indicate and check, and then you go to the right side and you keep to the right before you turn. which I think is pretty safe. I suppose it's just, keeping the ambiguity or the guesswork of, do I have a bicycle, motorcycle, or something passing me on the side a little bit out of the way. If you're always left, there's less chance that someone passes you left. And if you're going to go to the right side of the road, you check before you go. So that's pretty good. In South Africa, you're not allowed to cross your hands. So you are like hamster wheeling like an idiot when you go over turns, especially because you want to do a tight turn. So you're just like fucking crazy. In Japan, my instructor told me don't do that. It's weird. And when I watched the officer actually doing the course before I did it, you can cross your hands, but you always have to have one on the steering wheel, right? And you can go down to about, let's say, like 4 and 8 o'clock ish on the steering wheel. So you can't like casual driving windshield wiper your way through the turn. You have to still use both hands, which is the same in South Africa. You have to speed up at every opportunity a little bit, appropriate. So I mean, there's one long stretch in the course, but there was someone with a truck doing their test passing through it, so I couldn't go as fast as he did in that part. But you do speed up a little bit, and you never push the brake down once. Always twice or 3 times. Pump the brake enough to really feel like this. Like if the instructor is doing this, perfect. And I really think that's it. I wrote a bunch of stuff down that I can't read anymore, but I don't actually think that matters. Overall, the experience is pretty good. So if you're reading the blogs and so forth, and you're talking to other people who have to change over their license, and you hear the same things as you do in your home country, probably South Africa, about how it's so horrible and shitty, and it's really not. It's easier than a normal license. You have it easier, especially if you take someone with you. Just try and give them as much confidence in you as you can. I didn't dress anything fancy formal. I just put on a collar shirt underneath my top, so it's like a normal work day, actually, school day. And you should be fine. No stress. So do enjoy, and there's a nice little feeling when you have this. I feel like I belong a little bit more. I'm more officially in this country, which I suppose is good. And I also have a bunch of extra photos, which you always have, because I don't know why the fuck people always make a million photos when they only need 2. So yeah, that's great. Good luck. Ask me anything if you want below, I don't really care. But I hope it goes well for you, because it went well for me, so ciao. Second left into this little thing. Everything's going great, A or B? Fail, because you don't know what you're doing. Okay, we gotta ask someone how the hell they wanted us to do this one.